And I rise this evening to draw to your and members' attention, but in particular to the one minister who's present in the chamber at this time, a disturbing answer that's been provided by the government during question time today. Now, President, members will be aware that for some time, in fact quite a number of years, I've been asking questions of the government in respect to what might be most conveniently described as children in care who go missing. And there's insufficient time this evening to do due justice to the changes that have occurred over the last few years as a result of those persistent questions. But during this period of time, President, there have been now 3 ministers for child protection, and we now have a new Minister for Child Protection in Western Australia, and this is, to my knowledge, the first opportunity for that minister to provide an answer to this chamber in respect to child protection matters. Now, the minister who delivered the answer this afternoon is the Minister for Agriculture, who is of course responsible for the answer that's been provided. But in fairness to that minister, it's the Minister for Child Protection, the new Minister for Child Protection, who ultimately needs to take responsibility for the answer that's been provided this afternoon. Now, it was a 5-part question, President, and again for some context here, much of the information that has been sought this afternoon in the question is no different to the information that has been sought for years in this chamber. Now, the 4th part of the 5-part question reads as follows. For how many days were the whereabouts of the 18 children unknown, and have any reports been received of the children being victims of crime during this period? As I say, President, for context here, there's nothing particularly strange or unprecedented about the asking of this question. And many times there has been an answer provided by previous ministers. Now, President, on this occasion, the answer that has been provided, and before I remind members what the answer was, I might just again reiterate that here we are talking about a situation where there were 18 children in Western Australia whose whereabouts were unknown. Now, they are one of 3 categories. They are either completely missing and reported to police as a missing person, or they are described as what the department records as unaccounted for, not in contact. Now, members we'll perhaps pick this up on another occasion, but you might like to ask yourself the question, what's the difference between a missing child and a child who's unaccounted for, not in contact? But let's park that for another occasion. Meanwhile, the department also has another category called unaccounted for in contact. You can understand what the difference is there. But, President, nevertheless, there are 18 children, or there were 18 children, in the care of the state. Remember, these are children whose personal circumstances, home situation is such that they have had to be removed from their, what might be described as family of origin, placed into the care of the state. Regrettably, there's more than 5,000 children in Western Australia who fall into this category, and 18 of them have gone missing at some point in time. So we were told at the end of last year in November. And so I was following up today about the whereabouts of these 18 children whose whereabouts were unknown in November of last year. Now, pleasingly, President, the first part of the answer confirms that the 18 children have been found. And I go now to the answer provided by the Minister. The Minister says this afternoon, the period the 18 young people's whereabouts were unknown varied between 1 day to 24 days. Now, pause there, President. I'm sure that all members in this chamber will agree that none of us want any of these children to be missing for any period of time. But to the extent that we can take some comfort in this, the period of time in which they've gone missing is contained to no more than a month. So one of the 18 was missing for a day, and one of them was missing for 24 days, and the other 16 some period of time in between that. The minister then goes on to say, all reported or disclosed allegations or incidents relating to a child in care being a victim of crime are treated as a priority and investigated and responded to accordingly. Now, President, that's good. That's what we want. We want the Department of Communities, and in particular the agency looking after child protection, to be treating as a priority and investigating and responding to all reported and disclosed allegations of incidents relating to a child in care being a victim of crime. Remember, these are children who are in the care of the state. They've gone missing, and the question is, while they were missing, were they a victim of crime? Were they further abused during the time that they were missing? And pleasingly, the minister confirms, as the minister should, that these incidents, apparently all of them, have been treated as a priority, investigated and responded to accordingly. Now comes the troubling parts of the answer, President, because the minister then goes on to say, and if there's a member in here who thinks that this is okay, by all means, once I finish in 4 minutes, jump up and tell me that you think that this is okay. President, the minister goes on to say, providing this information. Now, what information are we talking about here? Information about when a child has gone missing. Have they been a victim of crime? The minister says, providing this information regularly to the member requires a significant diversion of resources to cross-check individual case files to ensure no matters were reported following the period of each child being unaccounted for. This diversion is not deemed an appropriate use of frontline resources. You've got to be kidding, President, that the Minister for Child Protection in the state, this new Minister for Child Protection, has authorised, and presumably this is her signature here, authorised for the minister in this place to read into this House that it's not deemed to be an appropriate use of frontline resources? What, to find out if a child in your care, in the care of the state, we've taken the child out of their family of origin circumstances, we've taken them into the state, they've gone missing, and now we're trying to ascertain during that period of time that regrettably they've gone missing, were they a victim of crime? But the minister says this is seemed to be deemed not deemed to be an appropriate use of frontline resources. Of course it's an appropriate use of frontline resources. When the child returns back into the care of the state having gone missing, whether it's for 1 day or 24 days, it should be the highest priority of the department at that time to ascertain exactly what went on during that period of time that the child was missing. As I say, whether it's 1 day or for 24 days. It should be the highest priority, and it's wholly inconsistent, President, with the earlier statement made by the minister, the pleasing statement which said, all reported or disclosed allegations or incidents relating to a child in care being a victim of crime are treated as a priority and investigated and responded to accordingly. So it should be. So it's absolutely not, President, with the greatest of respect to the new Minister for Child Protection, an inappropriate diversion of frontline resources. And if the new Minister for Child Protection thinks that having responded in such a fashion this afternoon that somehow the Shadow Minister for Child Protection is going to cease and desist from asking questions in respect to this matter, she's kidding herself. Because I intend during the course of this 42nd Parliament, President, to continue to regularly ask about this matter. The job of the opposition is to hold the government to account. I don't blame the government of the day for the fact that sometimes some children in care vote with their feet and their whereabouts become unknown. I don't blame the government of the day necessarily for those circumstances, but I expect the government to treat it as a high priority. I expect the government, when the child comes back into care, to treat it as a priority to find out, were they a victim of crime? Were they further abused during that period of time? And I don't expect, President, that a Minister for Child Protection, whether they're a new minister or an experienced one, would say that this is an inappropriate use of frontline resources. So it is regrettable that the Minister for Agriculture, who had to read this answer into the parliament earlier today, is away on urgent parliamentary business. But I do hope that the Minister for Environment, who is here, will draw this matter to her attention. Perhaps a statement could be read into the parliament at some future stage on behalf of the Minister for Child Protection, just to confirm that this matter is treated with the highest of priority, as we would all expect.